The Jeep 4xe was recalled, and you guys left thousands of comments on my videos. Many had a recurring theme. Now, just 7 days after releasing my video on the Jeep hybrid explosion in Belgium, Stellantis issued a recall. And this recall was for more than 32,000 Jeep Wrangler hybrid SUVs. And this was a problem with the battery. This has to do with vehicle fires. They've had 8 vehicle fires. 6 of these vehicle fires happened while the vehicles are charging. Currently, they're telling owners to park far away from buildings and don't charge these vehicles until they have a solution to fix this problem. Now, since I've posted that video, I've gotten thousands of comments, and some of these comments kept showing up over and over and over again from multiple people. And the first one is, well, Captain, this is a hybrid vehicle. This isn't an electric vehicle. But in reality, this is a PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Notice the last 2 words there. It's still an electric vehicle, even though it's a hybrid. It can run in full battery-operated mode, and it's got a fairly large battery on it, about a 17,500 kilowatt battery. I had comments about putting water on lithium and how bad that was and how bad the reaction is between water and lithium. And while they're absolutely right, lithium-ion batteries do not contain lithium metal. So it's okay to put water on these fires. Think about it this way. Hopefully everybody here knows that you can't mix chlorine and ammonia. That makes a very toxic gas that'll probably kill you. But if you look at table salt, sodium chloride, you can put that in ammonia and not have a reaction at all. That's because the sodium and chloride, it's bonded together. It wants to stay bonded together. For example, sodium, highly reactive with water. Sodium chloride, not so much. You can put salt in water and not have any issues. That's why we don't have kitchens that explode every time somebody cooks. And then there were hundreds of comments that were on the political spectrum. We should ban EVs. You're a shill, you work for the oil companies. I'll tell you what, if I was sponsored by the oil companies, I wouldn't be sitting in my basement doing these videos. And if you know any oil companies that want to sponsor me, I'll take the money. But even with that money, I'm still going to tell you how I feel about different vehicles, different technology. And notice I looked at 2 specific models of vehicles that are currently having issues. I'm not calling out all electric vehicles in this. If I see an issue, I'm going to address it. This channel was originally developed specifically for firefighters, to inform firefighters of the hazards out there. I understand that most electric vehicle owners will never have a fire, just like most combustion engine vehicle owners will never have a fire. Most homeowners will never have a fire. But as a firefighter, I respond to vehicle fires all the time. I respond to structure fires all the time. We see things happen. We see catastrophic failures every month, every week throughout the year. We have a very realistic view of what happens in the world because we see these disasters constantly. And then there are all the other people out there commenting about the BS statistics out there around vehicle fires, combustion engine versus electric vehicle. I've already done a video on this, looking at the statistics in the US, or the lack thereof of statistics in the US. But bottom line is, when an electric vehicle burns, it's fairly new, right off the lot. When a combustion engine vehicle burns, it's 10, 15, 20 years old and poorly maintained. Now, there are good studies out there in Sweden, for example, or EV Fire Safe in Australia, and they've studied a lot of vehicle fires, not only in Australia, but worldwide. And there's another website out there that tries to track every single Tesla fire that's happened in the last few years. In 2023, there are currently 35 Tesla fires that they have recorded. Even though Tesla has a market share of 77%, there are other electric vehicles out there that catch fire. And going further into vehicle fires, this truly was an explosion, a deflagration that launched the roof way up into the air. You look at the Renault Zoe, those explosions, leveling buildings. Since I put out that video, I found another incident that happened in Italy that blew up a garage due to a Renault Zoe. Now, vehicles don't typically explode. In fact, when we go on vehicle fires as firefighters, we're not worried about an explosion. That's a Hollywood trope. That's something you typically don't see in real life. In fact, just this week, we had an incident on the highway where a semi-truck was hit by a small car. It punctured the saddle tank. It dumped about 50 gallons of fuel on the roadway. I wasn't even concerned about fire as an incident commander. I was more concerned about the environmental hazard. I was more concerned about traffic and safety around that incident because, honestly, when it comes to gas, when it comes to diesel, the explosion hazard is fairly low. This idea of a car crashing, catching on fire, then blowing up, that's something that you see in the movies. That's something you see on TV. That's not real life. Now, going back to the comments, going back to a brilliant comment I came across, an idea I hadn't even considered, but gasoline in the tank, even when it's on the ground, it only carries half the components of combustion. You still need oxygen from the atmosphere to make that gasoline burn, where a lithium-ion battery, that has everything it needs inside of it to burn. All the products of combustion are already in there. It releases a tremendous amount of energy and causes these types of failures that we're seeing. Now, I know in that video, I didn't talk about the gas. I mentioned the gas, I mentioned it was highly flammable, but I didn't say what was in that. In that gas, it's primarily hydrogen. This type of battery cell that you saw in the Jeep, the gas mixture is made up about 20-25% hydrogen. It really depends on the battery chemistry. If you have an LFP battery, lithium iron phosphate, those super safe batteries that nobody thinks can fail, they can fail, and when they do fail, they can release up to 50% hydrogen. That's a significant amount of gas. There are other flammable components in the gas, but they're smaller in quantity. A lot of CO, a lot of CO2 is released as well. There's a lot of nasty stuff in the gas when you look at a lithium-ion battery failure. Now, I've also seen some complaints about the videos, and a lot of it kind of goes back to me personally and things like my hand movements. I don't really quite understand where that idea comes from, but I'll try to do better in the future. And then comments about me looking like this guy right here. I don't really see it, but maybe there's a resemblance. A big thanks to Mr. Cadogan, the Australian auto expert, for sending his viewers over my way. If you're coming from his channel, you've already subscribed, I really appreciate it, and I appreciated the plug. If you want to learn more about the data between electric vehicle fires and combustion engine vehicle fires, click this link right here, and I'll have multiple other links in the description below.